The stars stretched endlessly across the black void, each one a silent witness to the secrets of the galaxy. The human ship Odyssey glided through the emptiness, its hull creaking under the strain of its engines as though it could feel the tension in the air. Captain Mira Vallon stood on the bridge, her eyes fixed on the glowing anomaly ahead. It was unlike anything humanity had ever seen before. A colossal structure, hovering in space like a suspended monument, radiated an eerie energy that made the ship's sensors vibrate. The surface shimmered with colors that no one could name, moving like liquid fire beneath a glass dome, and at its center was a narrow, perfectly sealed orifice. Not a single alien species in the known galaxy had ever breached it. Not a single probe, not a single warrior, not even a starship powerful enough to tear moons apart. And yet, there was something calling to the humans, something that made the hairs on Myra's neck rise as if the universe itself was watching them closely. On the observation deck, the rest of the crew whispered in awe and fear. Lieutenant Yarrick, a seasoned pilot, kept his hand hovering over the emergency controls. "It's alive," he murmured, unable to hide the trembling in his voice. Mira didn't answer. She couldn't. Words seemed too weak to describe the presence of the seal. It wasn't just a barrier, it was an intelligence, silent and judging, as though it could see everything about them, read every intention, every thought. Across the galaxy, stories of sealed alien artifacts were common, but this one was different. This one had resisted even the most technologically advanced civilizations. And now, humans were here, small and fragile, but somehow drawn to it with a curiosity that was impossible to resist. The human crew prepared cautiously. They sent out drones first, small, unarmed machines designed to scan, touch, and test. Each drone approached the seal, sensors probing, lights flickering, mechanical arms reaching toward the surface. And each one failed. Within moments, the drones were either shredded by unseen forces or hurled backward as if slapped by an invisible hand. The energy emanating from the seal pulsed in time with some unspoken rhythm, responding to their every attempt. Some of the older crew members muttered about alien wrath or curses, but Mira had no time for superstition. She studied the patterns carefully, looking for a rhythm, a key, a hint of weakness. The seal did not just block passage, it tested those who dared approach it. And the humans were being tested. As night fell across the ship's artificial lighting systems, an uneasy silence settled. Mira felt it first, a vibration in the air, a subtle hum that seemed to reach deep into her mind. Others began to notice it too, an almost musical tone beneath the roar of the engines, soft but insistent. It seemed to pulse faster when they moved closer, slower when they hesitated, as if the seal was aware of their intentions. The aliens in the galaxy had tried brute force, diplomacy, even advanced psychic techniques. Nothing had worked. Humans, with their simple, unassuming technology, were something entirely new. Mira could not explain why, but she felt the seal was watching her specifically. A part of her wanted to step back, retreat to safe distance, but another part, a deeper, more reckless curiosity, urged her forward. She could feel it in her bones. The seal was waiting for someone like her. Someone human. Suddenly, alarms blared across the bridge. The sensors detected a shockwave emanating from the seal, rippling through space toward their ship. The Odyssey shuddered violently. Crew members were thrown from their stations as the lights flickered and the floor vibrated beneath their feet. Mira grabbed the railing, shouting orders to stabilize the ship. Outside the observation window, the seal pulsed brighter, colors twisting and flowing like liquid fire in patterns no one could understand. A voice, soft but commanding, echoed in Myra's mind. She did not recognize the language, but the meaning was clear. It was a warning, a challenge, a test all at once. The other humans stared at her, panic and awe reflected in their eyes. "Captain, it's speaking to you," Yarrick stammered. Mira felt the weight of every eye on her, every breath in the room, and yet she stepped closer to the console that controlled the external probe arms. The seal was no ordinary obstacle. It was alive, intelligent, and it had chosen her. Hours passed as Mira worked quietly, alone at the control panel while the crew debated retreat. Every calculation, every adjustment, Every small movement of the probes was met with resistance from the seal. Sparks flew across the console as energy pulses struck the ship, yet Mira remained focused. She was not the strongest, not the fastest, and not the most powerful in the galaxy. But she had something the seal could not ignore: determination. And something else, something deeper that even she could not name, guided her hands. She noticed subtle patterns that others had missed, tiny shifts in the glow, vibrations that matched the rhythm of her pulse. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the seal responded. A faint crack appeared at its edge, like a whisper of possibility. Every nerve in Myra's body screamed caution, but the spark of hope, the chance to break the impossible, burned brighter. Humans had been dismissed by the galaxy, underestimated, overlooked, and now they had a chance to prove they could do what no one else could. The seal would not resist them forever. As the first crack widened slightly, a low, rumbling sound echoed through the ship. Myra's heart pounded. The seal had reacted, and the reaction was not gentle. It was alive, aware, and dangerous. But it had chosen to acknowledge her. She glanced at her crew, their faces pale, eyes wide, breaths shallow, and felt a strange sense of calm. They were human, fragile, yet bold, and for the first time, the universe had noticed. And then, a final pulse of energy surged from the seal, casting the bridge in a blinding light. Mira shielded her eyes and whispered, almost to herself, "It's opening. I think it's opening." Outside, the stars seemed to hold their breath, waiting to see what would come next. The mysterious seal, which had defied the galaxy for centuries, had finally chosen a challenger. And that challenger was human. The crack in the alien seal glowed faintly, a line of pulsing light stretching across its surface like a thin vein of fire. On the bridge of the Odyssey, the crew held their breath, each person frozen in a mix of fear and awe. Captain Mira Vallen's hands hovered over the console, feeling a pulse not just in the ship, but deep within herself. The seal was responding, slowly, deliberately, as though it were alive and aware of every heartbeat, every thought, every intention. Around them, the alien civilizations had gathered at a distance, their ships floating silently in the void, watching through sensors and transmission feeds. None had dared approach this close before. And yet, here were humans, small and unarmed compared to the titans of the galaxy, stepping into a game they could barely understand. Mira knew that curiosity alone would not be enough. She would need courage, intuition, and an understanding beyond technology to survive what was coming. As the Odyssey drifted closer, the crew activated the scanning arrays, sending waves of pulses and frequencies toward the seal, measuring its responses, its energy flows, its strange vibrations. Nothing in human history had prepared them for this. The readings defied logic, energy patterns that seemed to shift when observed, reactions that occurred before they even acted, a subtle intelligence that mocked their science while tempting them forward. Lieutenant Yarrick adjusted the ship's position carefully, avoiding the strongest pulses that could tear the hull apart. Every movement felt like a gamble. One wrong step could end them all. Yet, Mira could feel a strange resonance inside her chest, a pull toward the orifice that was more than curiosity. It was a call, a beckoning, almost as if the seal itself wanted her to try. She was not sure why, but she knew the universe had chosen her for this moment, and there would be no turning back. The first probes were ready. Small, sleek, human-made drones with delicate manipulators, designed to test, touch, and record without causing direct harm. Mira activated one and sent it toward the crack. The seal reacted instantly. Energy pulsed outward, a soft shockwave that shook the drone violently. The mechanical arms twisted and snapped under invisible pressure. Myra's stomach knotted as she watched the drone tumble back, sparks flying from its hull. "It's resisting," Yarrick muttered, eyes wide. "It doesn't want anything touching it." But Mira noticed something different. Unlike the previous attempts by other species, the seal did not destroy the drone entirely. It hesitated, almost curious. A tiny pattern of light on the surface shifted toward the human probe. Something was different. Something inside the seal recognized their approach. And that something gave Mira hope. Hours passed as the human crew tried again and again, adjusting angles, rhythms, and frequencies. Every failed attempt was a test, every small reaction a clue. Mira studied the glowing fissure, her mind straining to find the logic behind it. There was a rhythm, subtle but undeniable, a pulsing that seemed to match the natural patterns of life itself. The aliens had brute strength, intelligence, and technology far beyond human comprehension, yet they had failed. Humans, with their small, fragile ships and simple machines, might be the only ones capable of approaching this challenge differently. Mira realized that brute force would not succeed here. Observation, patience, intuition, these were the tools that mattered. And she had them in abundance. The tension was unbearable. Crew members whispered among themselves, debating whether to retreat. The alien fleets at a distance were murmuring in their own languages, their voices carried through the data feeds. Some mocked, some warned, but none could interfere. The SEALs' energy pulsed faster, responding to their hesitation and their courage. Mira instructed the crew to remain calm and focus on the resonance, not the danger. Slowly, the seal began to shift. The crack widened imperceptibly, lines of light curling like smoke around the edges. Sparks of energy danced across the surface, and for a brief moment, it seemed almost alive, like a great, sleeping creature beginning to stir. Every eye in the room was glued to the anomaly. The air felt heavier, charged with electricity and anticipation, as if the universe itself held its breath. Then came the first direct reaction. Mira reached for the control panel, placing her hands over the sequence dials, feeling a connection she could not explain. The seal pulsed in response to her touch, a warm, almost human-like vibration that coursed through the ship. The other humans watched in stunned silence. Lieutenant Yarrick swallowed hard, muttering, "It's recognizing her. I don't understand it, but it's responding to her touch." Myra's heart pounded. She had not used force, nor had she tried to manipulate the seal with advanced technology. She had listened, watched, and moved in harmony with it. And for the first time, it had acknowledged her presence, almost cautiously, almost like a predator deciding whether she was prey, or something more. The realization hit her like a shockwave. The seal was alive, and it had chosen to let her approach. The moment stretched on, endless and fragile. Outside the ship, stars glimmered, distant and indifferent, while the seal's surface shimmered and shifted in response to Myra's subtle adjustments. Energy cascades flowed across the hull of the Odyssey, brushing against shields that groaned under the strain. Yet, despite the danger, Mira felt no fear. There was clarity, purpose, and a strange exhilaration in knowing that she alone had found the key to communicate with it. The crew, initially skeptical and terrified, now followed her lead, ready to act but careful to mirror her intuition. Every movement mattered, every breath was counted, and every second brought them closer to a breakthrough that could change everything. And then, the seal pulsed again, brighter than before, almost like a heartbeat, and a faint hum filled the ship, a sound so low and deep it seemed to vibrate inside the bones of every human on board. Mira whispered, almost to herself, "I think it wants us to try." The other humans stared at her, awe and fear reflected in their eyes. The seal had tested them, played with them, frightened them, and now it was waiting, silently, deliberately. The real challenge was about to begin, and only a human had the courage, the patience, and the instinct to face it. The seal pulsed with an intensity that made the Odyssey tremble. The faint crack along its surface had widened slightly, casting waves of light that washed over the ship's hull like liquid fire. Captain Mira Vallon stood at the control panel, her fingers hovering over the sequence dials, heart hammering. This was no longer a test of machines or technology. It was a test of courage, of intuition, of a human's ability to sense the living rhythm of the universe itself. The crew watched her silently, fear and awe painted on every face. Even the alien fleets at a distance remained frozen in observation, their massive starships shimmering faintly in the black void. Every civilization in the known galaxy had failed to penetrate this seal, yet here, a single human had discovered a way to interact with it. And now, the seal was ready to strike. The first human attempt to touch the surface directly was simple yet dangerous. Mira extended a gloved hand toward the glowing fissure, feeling the energy hum against her skin before her fingers even made contact. The seal reacted instantly, sending a surge of force that threw her backward, slamming her against the console. Sparks flew as lights flickered, alarms screamed, and the ship groaned under the pressure. For a moment, the crew feared the worst. The seal's defense mechanisms were powerful enough to destroy a ship. But Mira pushed herself upright, breathing hard, her mind sharp despite the pain. She realized that the force had not intended to harm, it was testing her resolve, gauging her reaction. Slowly, she reached again, this time with careful synchronization, matching the rhythm of the pulsing light, the faint hum that resonated in her chest. The seal responded, not with violence, but with acknowledgement. It was alive, aware, and ready to engage in something far beyond human understanding. Every attempt after that brought new challenges. Energy flares erupted from the fissure, cutting across the observation deck in blinding streaks. The ship's shields struggled to hold, sparks danced across consoles, and the crew was thrown from their stations. Lieutenant Yarrick scrambled to stabilize the engines, shouting orders that mixed with the hum of the seal's energy. Mira ignored the chaos, focusing entirely on the seal's subtle reactions. It was intelligent, strategic, and patient. Each time she adjusted her approach, the seal shifted, almost as if testing not her strength, but her mind, her courage, her humanity. The other humans watched in tense silence, hearts racing, unsure whether to help or step back. This was no longer a mission, it was survival, understanding, and discovery all at once. The alien observers must have been shocked. They had faced far more powerful species and far deadlier artifacts, yet none of them had succeeded where humans now tread. From their distant ships, they watched as the human probe attempts were met with resistance and subtle acknowledgement. The seal reacted differently to humans than it had to others, almost curiously, almost favorably. Mira felt the weight of that realization pressing on her mind. The galaxy had underestimated humanity for centuries, dismissing them as fragile and insignificant. But here, in front of the greatest mystery ever known, humans had an edge that no alien force could predict: intuition. She didn't know why the seal responded to her, or why her instincts aligned with its movements, but she felt a deep connection, as though something unseen had chosen her for this moment. And the seal was alive enough to test that connection with dangerous precision. Hours stretched into tense silence, punctuated by flashes of energy that made the ship's metal groan. Mira noticed patterns emerging, tiny flickers in the glow, subtle vibrations that corresponded with her own pulse. The seal seemed to anticipate her actions, responding almost like a living organism. A mistake could mean instant destruction. Every adjustment had to be precise, every movement carefully measured. The hum that resonated through the ship grew louder, vibrating inside bones and skulls alike, filling the crew with a mix of dread and exhilaration. Mira spoke softly, almost to herself, giving commands and observations that were more instinct than calculation. Each word, each gesture, was met with a reaction from the seal. It was testing them, pushing them to their limits, and yet it was not indifferent. It seemed almost respectful, even curious. Then the first breakthrough happened. Mira synchronized her movements perfectly with the rhythm of the energy pulses. The crack widened a fraction more, and the seal vibrated as if acknowledging her understanding. Sparks shot across the room, and alarms screamed in warning, yet the sensation was not of attack but of recognition. For the first time, it felt like a dialogue, albeit a dangerous, one-sided dialogue, between human and alien intelligence. The crew stared in awe, realizing that what they were witnessing could change the galaxy's perception of humans forever. The seal, untouchable for centuries, was responding to a human. Mira's heart pounded with both fear and triumph. She was no longer just an explorer, she had become the bridge between humanity and a mystery older than most civilizations. But the danger was far from over. With the crack widening, the seal's energy became unstable, sending unpredictable pulses that knocked crew members off their feet and jolted systems across the ship. The hull shuddered under the invisible force, lights flickered, and the temperature rose sharply. Every second was a gamble. One misstep could trigger a catastrophic reaction. Mira clenched her fists and focused, letting instinct guide her movements rather than thought. The seal was alive, yes, but it was also powerful, intelligent, and unpredictable. And the humans were its challenge, its puzzle, its unknown variable. Outside the Odyssey, the alien fleets trembled, their sensors unable to predict the reactions of the ancient and enigmatic structure. No one had come this close, and no one had ever survived unscathed. Now, a human was standing at the center of the storm, testing its limits, daring to see what no other being had ever seen. The first contact with danger had been made. The seal was alive. It was intelligent. And it was ready to see if humanity was worthy. Mira could feel it pulsing in tune with her heartbeat, a strange acknowledgement that the game had begun. And in that moment, she knew that everything would change. Not just for her or the crew or even humans, but for the galaxy itself. The seal would not stay closed forever. It had chosen its challenger. And the challenge was only beginning. The seal pulsed violently, throwing waves of energy across the bridge of the Odyssey, yet Captain Mira Vallon remained steady. Her hands hovered over the console, feeling the rhythm, the subtle vibrations, the almost imperceptible shifts in the glowing fissure. Every attempt, every adjustment, every small movement had led to this moment. The seal was no longer merely reacting to humans. It was engaging them, testing them as if it were alive and judging their worth. Mira felt a deep, primal connection to it, a strange certainty that the seal was responding to more than logic or technology. It was alive, and it had recognized her. She took a steadying breath, feeling the hum of the energy resonate through her bones. This was the moment she had prepared for, the moment humanity had waited for without even knowing it. The first direct attempt to unlock the seal was dangerous beyond measure. Mira instructed the crew to step back, to let her work alone. Each drone, each probe, each alien attempt had failed before, but the human touch was different. She synchronized her actions with the pulsing rhythm, matching it almost instinctively, feeling it in her heartbeat. The crack widened slightly, a line of light that seemed to breathe, twist, and shift according to her motions. Sparks of energy arced across the bridge, and alarms screamed, warning of overload, but Mira remained focused. This was not merely science or engineering. This was instinct, intuition, and courage combining to unlock a mystery older than civilization itself. She could feel the seal testing her, probing her limits, and responding to her decisions as if it were a sentient entity judging her worthiness. Minutes stretched into tense hours. The crew watched silently, awe and fear etched on every face. Lieutenant Yarrick kept a hand hovering over the emergency controls, ready to stabilize the ship at the first sign of disaster. Outside the observation window, the alien fleets trembled at the sight, unable to understand what was unfolding. The seal pulsed and shimmered like molten glass, reacting not to machines, but to the human presence. Mira moved carefully, her mind and body aligned with the rhythm of the energy. Tiny sparks of light danced along the fissure, expanding and contracting like the breath of a living being. The first breakthrough was subtle, a shift in the energy pattern that no one but Mira could recognize. Yet it was unmistakable. The seal was opening, ever so slightly, just enough to acknowledge the human who had dared to challenge it. Then it happened. A sudden surge of power shot from the fissure, blinding and overwhelming, throwing Mira to the floor and slamming the Odyssey's systems into chaos. Lights flickered, alarms blared, and the hull groaned under the strain. For a moment, it seemed as if the seal would reject her, destroy her, and erase the humans from its presence forever. But Mira did not panic. She rolled to her feet, shielding her eyes from the brilliant glow, and extended her hand again, matching the pulse with her own breathing, her own heartbeat. The seal hesitated for the briefest moment, then responded. The crack widened further, revealing a faint glimpse of what lay inside. Shapes, patterns, energy flows, and something more, something ancient and powerful that defied comprehension. The seal had not just opened, it had recognized humanity as a force worth noticing. The alien fleets reacted instantly. Ships maneuvered, weapons systems readied, and transmissions buzzed with alarm and disbelief. None of them could predict or understand what humans were doing. All the other civilizations had failed, dismissed as weak or unworthy. And now a single human was unraveling secrets they had been denied for centuries. Mira felt the weight of this realization pressing against her chest, a mixture of awe, fear, and exhilaration. She was no longer simply a captain, she had become the bridge between her species and a power older than most civilizations. Every step she took, every adjustment she made, was a dance with a living enigma that could destroy her at any second. And yet she felt an undeniable certainty that she was on the right path. As the crack widened, the seal's energy became more chaotic, pulsing in unpredictable waves. Sparks of light shot across the bridge, systems strained under the pressure, and the crew struggled to maintain balance as alarms screamed in protest. Mira ignored the chaos, focusing entirely on the energy patterns, the subtle shifts, the almost imperceptible reactions of the seal. It was alive, intelligent, and aware of every thought, every movement, every breath. And it had chosen to reveal its secrets to a human. For the first time, the crew realized the truth. Humans were not weaker, smaller, or insignificant. They had something no other species possessed: intuition, courage, and the ability to understand life where technology and brute force had failed. The seal pulsed again, brighter than ever, a living, breathing entity acknowledging the human who dared approach it. Finally, the fissure widened enough for Mira to glimpse inside fully. Shapes, colors, and energy flows twisted in ways that defied explanation. There was knowledge there, power there, and something even more dangerous, a warning. The seal was not simply an obstacle, it was a guardian, testing civilizations for reasons long forgotten, for challenges older than time. And now humanity had passed its first trial. Mira could feel it pulsing beneath her fingertips, a rhythm she recognized, a power she had earned the right to witness. Outside, alien fleets recoiled, unable to comprehend what they were seeing. Humanity had broken through the impossible, and the galaxy would never be the same. The bridge of the Odyssey was silent except for the hum of the seal and the shallow breaths of the crew. Mira stepped back, staring at the glowing fissure, her mind racing with questions, possibilities, and dangers. The seal had been opened, but the consequences were only beginning. Energy cascaded across space, and a faint message seemed to echo in her mind, an ancient warning, a challenge, a promise. The human had broken through what no other species could. The seal had chosen them. And the galaxy would soon pay attention. The moment the seal finally opened, the galaxy seemed to hold its breath. Across the void, alien fleets hovered like predators uncertain of what they faced. For centuries, they had believed the seal untouchable, beyond the reach of any known civilization. Yet a human had broken through, standing at the center of a power that dwarfed entire star systems. From a distance, alien commanders shouted orders that translated into commands no one could follow in time. Their ships shivered in the strange energies flowing from the fissure, sensors overloaded, shields straining under power that had no name. Panic rippled across the fleets, whispers of fear spreading like wildfire. For the first time, aliens realized that humans, small and underestimated, possessed a courage, intuition, and stubbornness that no technology could match. And that realization terrified them. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Captain Mira Valen stood with her hands clenched over the console, eyes locked on the pulsating fissure. The crew around her moved with tense efficiency, supporting her every decision, though their faces were pale with the pressure of the situation. The seal's energy now flowed freely, casting brilliant light across the ship, illuminating the alien shapes and structures visible within. Sparks of power danced across the hull, and strange symbols, previously hidden, appeared briefly in the glow, like a message meant only for those brave enough to look. Myra's mind raced, calculating what could happen next, feeling the weight of the artifact's power. She understood that this was not just a discovery, it was a responsibility, a force that could shift the balance of the galaxy. And others would come, seeking to claim it. The first attempts by the alien fleets to intervene were swift and aggressive. Ships surged forward, weapons primed, ready to seize the artifact by brute force. Energy pulses from the seal lashed out unpredictably, forcing them back, shattering smaller vessels, and sending massive hulls quivering under invisible forces. Myra's crew watched, awestruck and terrified, as the aliens discovered firsthand the power they had underestimated for centuries. Humans, she realized, had something the galaxy could not measure: adaptability, courage under pressure, and a willingness to risk everything without certainty. The seal had tested many, but it had never encountered this combination. And now, the humans were defending it not with might alone, but with understanding, intuition, and strategy. Amid the chaos, Mira noticed something more subtle. The energy from the seal was not only defensive, it seemed communicative. Patterns in the light pulsed in response to her decisions, almost as if guiding her, teaching her, testing her resolve. The crew began to coordinate, following her lead, adjusting shields, redirecting power, and moving probes with careful precision. Each action was mirrored by the seal, responding to their courage and coordination. It was a dance of life and energy, a silent dialogue that no alien race could have mastered. And yet, every second brought danger. Every pulse, every spark threatened to tear the Odyssey apart. One misstep, one hesitation, could mean annihilation. The humans were fragile, yes, but they were clever, bold, and in tune with the living intelligence before them. The alien commanders grew desperate. They realized that brute force would not work. Their ships, even the largest and most advanced, could not breach the protective energy. Weapons fired blindly, only to be deflected or vaporized. Diplomacy failed. The humans did not negotiate, did not retreat, did not plead. They acted with confidence, guided by instincts the aliens could not comprehend. And in that confidence lay power. Myra's hand rested lightly on the console, her mind moving in rhythm with the seal's energy, feeling the pulse of the alien technology as though it were an extension of her own body. The humans were the only species capable of controlling this force, and the aliens realized too late that they had misjudged them entirely. As the hours stretched, the seal revealed more of its secrets. Strange, glowing symbols floated across the fissure, patterns of energy that seemed to hint at knowledge, technology, and dangers the galaxy had never faced. Myra's crew watched, understanding fragments, forming strategies, and defending the ship while simultaneously deciphering what lay within. Each pulse of energy carried both power and warning, a reminder that the humans had passed one test, but many more lay ahead. The seal had chosen them not only for courage, but for their ability to survive, adapt, and understand the forces that governed the galaxy. Mira realized that humanity's role was no longer small or insignificant. It was central, unavoidable, and impossible to ignore. Finally, as the alien fleets began to retreat in confusion and fear, Mira took a steadying breath. She felt the seal respond, pulsing warmly, acknowledging the humans' courage and resourcefulness. The Odyssey had survived, the humans had triumphed, and the galaxy had been forced to notice them. But the captain knew that this was only the beginning. The artifact's secrets were immense, dangerous, and far from fully understood. And somewhere in the darkness of space, far beyond the immediate glow of the seal, other forces were already stirring, watching, waiting, and preparing to challenge the humans again. The first breakthrough had been made, but the war for knowledge, power, and survival was only beginning. And in the midst of it all, humanity had proven that courage, instinct, and determination could overcome even the most impossible odds. The glow from the alien seal filled the Odyssey, casting shadows that danced across the bridge like living entities. Captain Mira Vallon stood at the center, her hands steady on the console, heart racing, mind flooded with awe and apprehension. The artifact, which had resisted every species in the galaxy for centuries, now pulsed in a rhythm that seemed to acknowledge humanity itself. Outside, the alien fleets had retreated, not out of defeat alone, but out of fear and confusion. They had witnessed humans achieve what they could not, and in that moment, the galaxy began to see humanity in a new light. But Mira knew better. The seal's power was immense, but it was not merely a prize, it was a warning. The energies within hinted at threats the galaxy had yet to face, forces older and more dangerous than any civilization had imagined. Humanity had passed the first test, but the journey had only just begun. The crew moved cautiously, scanning the fissure as it continued to pulse, revealing glimpses of the world inside. Colors, patterns, and shifting shapes moved like a living ecosystem, energy flowing in ways that defied logic. There were signs of technology, but it was alien in form, organic in motion, and almost impossible to understand. Mira could feel the seal communicating, sending warnings, possibilities, and instructions all at once. The hum that had vibrated through the ship for hours now seemed to speak in a language she could feel rather than hear. The artifact was not passive, it was a sentinel, alive and intelligent, capable of testing and teaching. And it had chosen humans to carry forward its knowledge. Every pulse, every flicker of light was a reminder that the galaxy was about to change in ways that no one could fully predict. The alien civilizations were regrouping at a safe distance, their communications buzzing with speculation and fear. They had underestimated humans, and that mistake had consequences. Orders were shouted, fleets maneuvered, and sensors recalibrated, but the seal's energy was no longer a puzzle for them. It was now under human guidance, subtly influenced by Mira and her crew. Each adjustment they made was mirrored by the artifact, expanding the fissure slightly, showing more of its contents, but never completely revealing its full power. Mira realized that the seal was a teacher, a judge, and a guardian all in one. Humanity had been tested for courage and understanding, and in passing, they had earned the first glimpse of truths that could shift power balances across the galaxy. As the crew observed the fissure, they began to understand fragments of what lay inside. Strange symbols floated in energy fields, forming patterns that hinted at knowledge of interstellar travel, ancient civilizations, and cosmic events that predated recorded history. The artifact seemed to show glimpses of worlds in danger, energies that could destroy planets, and possibilities that could advance life to unimaginable heights, or annihilate it. Myra's mind raced as she realized the gravity of what they had unlocked. The seal was more than an object, it was a warning and an invitation. Humanity had been recognized, but that recognition came with responsibility. The artifact had chosen them to be its stewards, to carry forward knowledge that could either save the galaxy or destroy it. Outside, the alien fleets hesitated, their commanders exchanging signals of uncertainty. The humans had proven their worth, and for the first time, the galaxy could not ignore them. Myra's voice, calm but resolute, addressed her crew. "We've survived the first test. But this is just the beginning. Whatever lies ahead, we face it together." The crew nodded, a mix of relief and determination in their eyes. They had survived, learned, and triumphed in a way that no other species had ever done. And yet, the artifact continued to pulse, hinting at challenges yet to come, urging them forward into the unknown. The seal was no longer a mystery. It was a path. And humanity was ready to walk it. In the hours that followed, the Odyssey stabilized. The energy from the fissure remained intense, but manageable. Mira allowed herself a moment to breathe, to feel the weight of what had just occurred. The galaxy had witnessed the rise of humans not as weak newcomers, but as intelligent, courageous, and adaptable beings capable of facing the impossible. The alien civilizations would take time to adjust, to understand, and to respect the new balance of power. But Mira and her crew had seen the first true possibilities of the artifact, and they knew that humanity's role was no longer small or secondary. They had broken through the impossible, faced danger, and emerged stronger. The seal had opened, but its full secrets remained ahead, waiting for humans to explore, understand, and wield with wisdom. As the stars stretched endlessly outside the observation window, Mira felt a sense of calm determination. The seal had chosen a human challenger, and the challenge had been met. The universe was vast, filled with danger, wonder, and mystery. But for the first time, humanity had proven it could face the unknown and survive. And somewhere beyond the glow of the seal, beyond the alien fleets and the familiar constellations, new horizons awaited. The galaxy was no longer the same, and humanity had just begun to step into its place among the stars. The artifact pulsed one last time as if acknowledging their courage, then settled into a steady, mysterious glow. Mira turned to her crew, a quiet smile forming on her lips. "We've opened the door," she said softly. "Now it's time to see what lies beyond." The crew exchanged determined looks. They had faced the impossible, survived, and learned that humanity's true strength was not in weapons or numbers, but in courage, curiosity, and the will to step forward when no one else could. Outside, the stars shimmered as if applauding their triumph, and the universe waited for the next chapter of humanity's journey.